Greetings everyone, and welcome to this new After Effects tutorial presented by mattrunks. Today we'll look at how to use my latest preset AmorType version 2.0. First of all, I'd like to thank Dan Heberts from motionscript.com who helped me out personally to create this latest version, which includes a couple of new options. First, the exit animations, automatic outros based on the out point of a layer without any keyframes, very simple and customizable, and also the possibility to add color with a single click, just like we did in the previous tutorial, as well as random time displacement, like in the animation that's coming up in one moment. This one, with letters appearing in a random sequence, set that up in a single click. I'll cover all that. First, you have to download the preset with the FFX extension on my website and copy that file inside your After Effects installation folder. On Mac, for example, application, on PC in program files, in the preset folder. You can create a new folder called mattrunks, restart After Effects. Let me open up this little demo project. And here we have a really basic text. Look up for the preset in the Effects and Preset panel under Windows, Effects and Presets. Simply type AmorType and then just drag and drop it onto the existing text element, or double click and it'll create a new text for you. And right here we can see that a couple of properties were added. We have animation 1 consisting of a text animation using the expression selector. If you need more info on the expression selector, I will refer you to my tutorial dedicated on the subject. We'll look at how to build those animations. Let's rename this intro and this one outro, and the third we'll dedicate it for color management. We can customize those expressions very easily. Add animatable properties. By default, I've put 3 in the preset. The position, scale, and Z rotation. Same thing for the outro, but as you can see it holds different values. Of course we can change the values. Here I've put -50 on Y, 100 on the intro. Now if I play it out, that's the preset's default animation. If you can't find the outro, it's because to get the outro we must contract the layer because it occurs on the exit point. So if you set this layer to be 2 seconds long, you can use the shortcut Alt $ on Mac or Alt close bracket on PC. So if we make this as short as 2 seconds, as a result it will start disappearing before the intro animation is complete. Nothing to worry about if you make it short, except the fact that you won't have enough time to read, but still it can create some pretty nice effects. Let's make it last a bit longer. So here we have a basic animation, including several levels of control. First, right on the layer, there's a couple of options. You can play around with those values that are linked to the expressions. For example, the offset between characters, by default it's 1, as in 1 frame. If you put 2, there'll be much more offset between each character. The animation will be much slower. If we put 0.5, the offset will be smaller. They'll almost appear at the same time. Let's put 1. The duration, if we put 0.5, it'll last longer. We'll need to expand the layer. As you can see, it takes a whole lot more time until the animation's completion. On the opposite, if we put 0.05, it'll make it really fast and make the bounce more important. So let's put 0.1. That's the default value. We can perhaps increase the frequency to 3. That'll increase the bounce effect. And if we bring the decay property down to 2, it'll make the bounce even more important and last longer. Let's try 5 with a frequency of 2. It's up to you to play around with that until you get what you desire. If you want it to bounce or not to bounce, let's make it a bit slower, 0.15. So that's it for setting up the basic motion. And then concerning the animation itself, you can modify it as you want. If you want your text to come in from higher above, simply change the Y value on the position here, and it'll come from the bottom, For the opposite direction, make it a negative value, -200. You can also have it come in from further on the right or left by changing the value on X. That's up to you. All properties will benefit from this deceleration effect. Let me set it back to the default values. You can make it come from the distance as well on the Z-axis, like so. Modify the scale property. Let's try 50 for example. And you can also add the opacity property, set it down to 0%. So those are the basic values for the intro, which will automatically be processed based upon your own initial values with a deceleration effect. So that's it for this little animation. For the outro, it works the same independently. Let's try removing the position property. We'll play with the scale and rotation only for the outro. Let's contract our layer a bit. Another thing worth mentioning is that you can control how this animation is processed either one letter at a time, like in this case, or open up the expression selector and change the based on option to words, for example, or lines. So that will make it disappear one word at a time. Very simple. Up to you to decide what's best for you. Let's switch back to characters. The color, I don't remember if I already told you, but you can simply disable this option here to get back to the default text color. When active, the color random will apply. Then we can get down to the color option and change this value here to add some color variations. A grade value will make it multicolor. On the opposite, if we put down a low value like 20 degrees, it'll keep the color variations close to the default text color. You can alter the saturation. You can also add more properties like the strokes color, its opacity or brightness. It is up to you to play around with that. And of course, you can always modify the global text color. It will be taken into account when the color variations apply. I think I've covered about all that needed to be covered. Oh yes, the randomization option. Let's get rid of the position property on the intro and also remove the scale and rotation, simply to show you that we can actually build it from scratch. Let's add a rotation and let's make it rotate on X. By default, the anchor point sits at the bottom. You can also change its location right here in More Options, Grouping Alignment. I'll set it back to 0 just for now. And let's move the anchor point on top, minus 86%. In this case, it all depends on the text size. And let's now change the rotation, like so, to create a swinging effect, so 100 degrees. Next, let's also add the opacity property and set it down to 0%. And we can add a bit of randomness on both other axes, something like 15 here and 15 there. And from this point, if we hit play, we'll get to see our little animation. It's pretty fast. Let's increase the duration up to 0.25. The frequency, leave it at 2. The decay, we can lower it down to 3, and that will make our animation much slower with an increased duration on the swing effect. Let's increase the frequency once more. Up to you to set that up. Perhaps leave the frequency at 1, but lower down the decay to 1 to make the swing last a little bit longer. And then for the outro, let's make it about the same. So get rid of the scale and rotation. Let's add the rotation property, make it the opposite, so we'll put minus 100. Let's also add the opacity property and bring it down to 0%. That'll make it exit with the same but reversed movement. It's possible to add keyframes onto those properties. For example, now it appears like this. You can, for example, create a keyframe on the decay, move forward 10 or 20 frames, then increase it to 10. It will make it so that the intro gets less of the swinging. Contract the layer a bit. Then if we hit U, here are both keyframes we added. They should calm down the swinging intensity. We can add some easing on that to make sure we obtain a smooth result. And there we have it. Now it stops entirely. If it's too slow, simply bring the second keyframe further. And now the exit motion of our text is very clean. I hope this preset will be useful to you. As for me, I think I'll be using it quite often because it's very convenient to manage text animations. When you're done setting it up, you can simply duplicate the layer and offset it in time. Make it a second text. change the color. It's effortless and renders very fast, except on CS6. I don't know exactly what they changed, but probably due to the cache memory system. Character per character expressions apparently is quite heavier to process for some people, including myself, but in AE 5.5 it works perfectly, even on CS3. So that concludes this tutorial. Don't hesitate to download the preset and leave a comment if you like it. See you soon in upcoming tutorials.